Want to be able to flex like this? I got you. Here's how I completed the Halloween event in under 24 hours.
Mag-bear brand ka muna?
To dream the impossible.
So, if you know me, you know that I like a lot of online comics. And there's this comic on Instagram called Mimi and Mumu, created by Mia Love World. Although, I guess it's more of a short video comic, since most of their content consists of short video clips. So, I don't know what I'd call this genre. But I like it. I like Mimi.
The year 1995 wasn't just a turning point in the 90s, but also in the entire information age. It was the perfect storm of circumstances in terms of technological achievement, attitude, and cultural expectations that led to the mass spread and adaptation of a whole new concept known as the internet.
You've got mail.
The World Wide Web, the cyberspace, whatever you wanted to call it. It was no longer just a pipe dream in its experimental phases reserved only for those in educational or government domains. It was cheap, easy to use, and yours to explore anytime you wanted, from any place. Where do you want to go today? This ease of access to the internet was made possible by many factors, with the most prominent, of course, being the release of Windows 95. It was revolutionary in its new design, practically built for navigating the web. But a premium program that came with this operating system compounded this convenience even further. A new web browser known as Internet Explorer. With its incredibly unique design and business model, all you had to do was dial up, log on, and you were now connected to the whole entire world. It worked its way into becoming the most popular web browser ever, becoming the standard for the next couple decades. But Internet Explorer's debut and outreach to the public was not easy. Although Microsoft was able to figure out a way to get their new product to the very top, even in the presence of competing programs like Netscape Navigator, it was a journey full of controversy, betrayal, and even legal battles. Things would get ugly, and eventually everything would come tumbling down. And the question is, how did that happen? Hi, I am Peter John, and this is a video guide on how you can make the most out of Microsoft's Internet Explorer. At just your fingertips, you can travel all around the entire world through a whole new medium, the cyber world. It is constantly changing and getting more innovative every day, and here to take us to the new millennium is Hostinger. your friendly neighborhood website builder. Let's take a look at nationsquid.com, home to the latest in cutting-edge entertainment and the very first cyber sitcom. Quite the feat, but it's looking a little passé. Ross Perot called. He wants his website back. But with Hostinger, I can create the website of the future in just minutes. I start by entering my brand name, selecting a type of website I want to make, and then describing what that site is about. History of, it's a wonderful user interface, technology. From all this information, Hostinger will put together a beautiful, fresh theme for my website, which I can then completely customize. I can add my own pictures, create my own logos, even add an e-commerce section for my merch store, or as all the cool kids are calling it, swag. And when I'm done, I can link it to a free domain and SSL certificate, making sure that my website is both easy to find and secured. I can also check on my website's performance and see where I can improve. And now you can create your own little corner of the internet today. Visit hostinger.com/nationsquid or use the code NATIONSQUID at checkout to get an exclusive 10% discount. .coms are the future. Hostinger. There is so much online real estate. Make it yours. While not instantaneous, there were three main things that Microsoft Internet Explorer significantly had in its favor: convenience, ease of use, and compatibility. Yes, believe it or not, there was a time where Internet Explorer was the better option, and it all has to do with the historical context and digital market of the time. Just to put things in perspective, in 1994, about 2% of all households had access to the internet. By 1996, that number had jumped to 26%. A staggering difference that 2 years can make. And you could argue that the main force behind this was, of course, Windows 95. But at this time, people weren't using Internet Explorer on this new operating system. They were using another program called Netscape Navigator. The capabilities that Netscape had really goes to show just what kind of competition Microsoft's new program was facing. In order to truly appreciate these capabilities, we first need to understand the differences between the internet and the World Wide Web. Yes, there is a difference, despite us using the terms interchangeably in everyday conversation. The internet is a huge network of computers interconnected that are able to talk to each other. The World Wide Web is the software we use to make that communication easy to do by using things like HTML, hyperlinks, and URLs, etc. And in the early 90s, a bunch of web browsers like Nexus, Mosaic started popping up left and right that made accessing the World Wide Web very easy for the average person. But because computers were still quite primitive, these browsers didn't always do a great job at loading things on a page. Often you had to wait for everything to finish loading on a page before it would even show up on your screen. Netscape Navigator did something quite innovative. Improving on Mosaic's code, it loaded some graphics and text before others. This created the illusion that your internet connection was faster. And for just $50, Netscape Navigator would be yours and you could surf away on the net. Because they got a hold of this innovation quite early on, this allowed for their popularity to skyrocket. And by the time the other browsers caught up, Netscape was the industry standard for web browsing. And when people got their Windows 95, they immediately installed Netscape on it so they could get online. Obviously, Microsoft was stoked about their Windows 95 computer program being popular, but they knew that things could be better. They now had a big hold on the OS market. Perhaps now they could get a hold of the web browser market as well. This would become the start of what has become known as the first browser war. In case you needed something nerdy to hear today, there it is. The browser wars would essentially be the first true public scandal Microsoft would find themselves in, and is arguably still the source of the controversies they deal with today. With Netscape being so popular and having this new innovation to their advantage, it was going to be tough for Microsoft to compete with them. They knew this and weren't exactly enthusiastic about it. It appeared that Microsoft wasn't just looking to outperform Netscape, but obliterate its existence entirely. In fact, the CEO of Netscape, James Barksdale, claimed that his company had some uncomfortable meetings with Microsoft, saying, "I have never been in a meeting in my 33-year business career in which a competitor had so blatantly implied that we should either stop competing with it or the competitor would kill us." Yikes. Despite these high tensions from the company, Internet Explorer did have some humble beginnings. After Microsoft licensed a company called Spyglass to create it based on Mosaic code, the program was officially released just a month after Windows 95's launch as part of a bundle called Windows 95 Plus, which, like Netscape, also cost $50. But unlike Netscape, this $50 also gave you extra stuff, like better disk compression technology, special themes, Space Cadet pinball, improved dial-up services, just to name a few things. But despite these extra features, it unfortunately just wasn't enough for Microsoft to get people excited. Also, Internet Explorer was generally slower to making big updates than Netscape was. Netscape's larger market gave it better support across multiple platforms, and it took much longer for Internet Explorer to start competing with technologies such as JavaScript. Because of this, Microsoft's web browser just wasn't as good as Netscape. They would slowly start to make things better with incremental updates, but in 1996, things would truly start to change. It was at this time where Microsoft really evaluated its strengths and weaknesses relative to Netscape. If they couldn't compete with the innovation just yet, they could just strike the company's Achilles heel. There was one thing that Microsoft had much more of than Netscape: capital. This means that they could better afford to take a risk that could significantly benefit them long term. Microsoft started to operate hugely on economies of scale. The idea that spending more money now will create a lot more money later on. Netscape got nearly all its money from people buying their web browser for $50. So what did Microsoft do? Well, they released Internet Explorer 3 and made the browser completely free. Heck, they even bundled it with their next update of Windows 95. This is what made Internet Explorer incredibly popular. Microsoft essentially treated the product as a loss leader, because they knew the product's exposure to so many machines would increase Microsoft's exposure and strengthen their influence and presence on the internet. Was the browser 100% as good as Netscape? Not at all. But free is better than paying $50. Ultimately, this plan worked, and this version of Internet Explorer alone brought its market share from around 5% in 1996 to as high as 30% a year later. But there was another thing going on in the tech space that, oddly enough, indirectly helped Internet Explorer's newfound success: the failure of Apple.
Pinaka-pinipili or pinakamalaki. Pinakamasarap, Chicken Joy. Pinaka-pinipili or pinakamalaki. Pinakamasarap, Chicken Joy. Kaya chosen by 4 out of 5 Pinoy. Pinaka-pinipili or pinakamalaki. Pinakamasarap, Chicken Joy.
Everybody, wash your body. My Safeguard Body Wash.
Yeah, oh my God, ang skin namin. Brother, sister, at si Lolo rin.
Now throw your bar soaps in the air.
For no more EU body washes there. Safeguard Body Wash keeps the germs away.
Up to 24 hours, wala kang germs. Tried and tested, now we can confirm. Ang #1 family germ protection brand in the fight. Protected kasi germs all day and night.
Dumi at germs sa skin.
No, no.
Indirectly helped Internet Explorer's newfound success: the failure of Apple. The 1990s was not a good time for Apple at all. With Steve Jobs no longer in the picture, the company was bleeding money and was even projected to disappear entirely by the year 2000. But when Steve Jobs was hired back in 1997, after the company used most of the money it had left to buy his company next, Apple and Microsoft put together a deal. A very controversial deal, considering the whole Mac versus PC feud was still very much alive, even at this time. Apple was paid $150 million to support a ton of Microsoft Office products, as well as make Internet Explorer the